Okay. Then what are the main characteristics of the cloud? Main characteristics of the cloud as shown in the question here, that on-demand access. It can be accessed when you require broad access network. It can be accessed by any device, by any operating system, from any location, through any media. Metered service, and we define that this metered service, it will be very useful for SLA agreement and for pay as you go. And there are other factors which this measuring, it will be very effective, and we will discover it during the next sessions. Rapid elasticity, it can be upgraded vertically or horizontally, automatically, and finally the resource pooling. Okay. The next question, what is the difference between cloud customer and the cloud user? Cloud service customer pay the money, and the cloud user is end user who use the cloud service. The answer for Sanad, this is right answer. Cloud customer is company or organization. Cloud user are employees, engineers. Okay. Raj, again, it's okay. Subh, no, this is wrong. What is end user? And this is not the right answer. Prem, cloud customer is the organization which uses the cloud. Cloud user is any user within the, who. Okay, but here it is the organization not uses the cloud. Usually we are saying he is the organization, the customer who is paying the money. He is the customer, he is paying the invoice. Yani, well, definitions may be different, but by the end of the day, all of them almost the same. Cloud customer who pays a service. Yes, cloud customer who pays a service, but you forgot about the cloud user. Cloud user is the user who is using. Okay. The next question: what is the difference? What are the differences between cloud service provider roles and responsibilities? Mention at least 3 roles. Sorry, I think this question, it's not written properly. There is misspelling and but anyway, what are the roles for the cloud service provider? Cloud service manager, right? But I mentioned at least 3. Then Sanat, this is not okay. Provide on.
No, I put enter, right? It went to next. This is the first time I did mistake.
Okay. Provide on-demand infrastructure. Provide secure. What provide? I'm not asking. Anyway, I think the question it's not properly written. Then I will not say this. I am saying 3 rules for the service provider. Forget about this, the answer, but these are the slide. You remember this when we mentioned that the cloud service provider, we have operations manager, we have deployment manager, we have service manager, we have business manager, we have customer support and care representatives. These are the rules. These are the rules. And unfortunately, you have to I prefer to memorize it. I prefer to memorize it for the exam. Then forget about this one, because this is, I'm afraid that it's not written in proper way. Again, rules this for the cloud service customer. For the cloud service customer, we mentioned that we have 4: cloud service user, cloud service administrator, cloud service business manager, cloud service integrator. And for the service partner, we have the cloud service developer, cloud auditor, and the cloud service broker. Unfortunately, I know that these 3 slides, no one like it, but you have to be familiar with it for the exam. And by the way, they are very important also in your life, because when you will go to any organization or for your own organization and we ask you what are the rules which we have to provide for the cloud, or what are the rules which it should be eliminated from the on-prem to the cloud, then you have to be familiar with these rules, and you have to be able to define for your organization what are the responsibilities as well for these rules. Next question. What are the main cloud capabilities? We have infrastructure, platform, and software. We have IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Network, it is not the main, it's not a main capabilities. It is not a main capabilities. I cannot consider the network. Next, who is responsible for server hardware in infrastructure capability? You have to understand that who in the infrastructure, the provider, he will be responsible for the server. When you speak about operating system, it will be responsibility of the customer. For the PaaS platform provider, he will be responsible for the server and the developing platform. And when it reaches to the software, then he will be responsible for everything. Then who is responsible for the server hardware in infrastructure capability? Of course, it will be cloud service provider, and all of you answered correctly. Who is responsible for server operating system in platform capability? We mention here platform. Platform, this it will be the customer. The service customer, he will be responsible for the platform. Unfortunately, this is no, this is a wrong answer, gentlemen. I'm afraid that this question, it is not answered correctly. 1 minute. Who is responsible for server operating system in platform capability?
It should be the provider.
Osama, the way I am reading the question is, when you have mentioned platform capability, I think it is talking from a PaaS perspective. In a PaaS perspective, security patches and all the updates to the operating system is the service providers only. That is the way first I answered it as.
Yes, you are right. This question, it's wrong. Yes, you are right. I agree about this. This is the wrong question. Who is responsible for server operating system in platform capability? It is the cloud service provider. The customer here, he will be responsible only for what? Application and data.
Data and
application data,
Yes, he will be responsible for application and data. This is a strong question. Okay, good. Who is responsible for server operating system in software capability? Server provider. The person who answers cloud service customer. When we are saying software as a service, customer, he is not responsible for anything. When we are saying software as a service or software capability, you will not hear software capability. You will hear SaaS or software as a service. No, a customer, he has no access or he has no control over the software capabilities. Okay, I think this is the end of the question.
Yeah, this is a good exercise. I think we'll do better next session.
Yes, and it will be a good chance also to make sure that you captured the data, or at least to tell you that you may have some problems in the understanding. Then we will be able to review the information after that.
Right.
Okay, now we are here. Just I will go one slide earlier to just remind you.
And sir, I think what I observed, I think the way your class was structured yesterday, I think it is following the AIU book, the all-in-one, because I think I could see almost it is resembling.
Yes.
So the thing is
Yes.
that after attending your class, I think going through that AIU, the respective portion, I think it makes it much more clearer.
As I told you before, I liked the all-in-one manual, and this is my standard in preparing the slides. Especially it contains most of the information required. Okay.
So what about the latest syllabus that changed on August, right?
Sorry?
So IC squared, they changed the syllabus in August. That's the latest syllabus. Is it also included, part of your trend?
You mean in last August?
Yeah, last August. They included some
This
new.
is a new one. This is a new
Okay.
one. And this is the reason why I mentioned I need all-in-one version 3, not version 2.
Okay.
Okay. Now, just for refresh your information, I want you to have a look on this screen because I want to move to the next slide to explain the differences between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. And from now and further, I will call it ES, PaaS, and SaaS. These are the common names in the market. We will go through the cloud service capabilities. We have some shots. Okay, this is related to the quiz. Okay, then for the infrastructure as a service, what are the characteristics of the infrastructure as a service? Number one, scalability. And of course, when you will have ES, of course, it will be very easy to be scalable. Why? Because as we mentioned yesterday, we have the capability that you will be able to add additional servers, to add resources, computing resources, and this it will be very easy. It can be done through self-provisioning, and it can be done manually and automatically. You have to understand when we are saying scalability manually and automatically, what does we mean? We have here that if you remember the example which I gave it to you yesterday, that we have a server which it serves customer, and this customer, he is, we have average 300 or 400 transactions per day, and everything is going fine with this server configuration. But by the end of the year, in the month of December, they announced we are announcing discounts, and the number of the visits or the transactions per day, it's increased from 300 into 1,000. Why? Because of course the users, they want to utilize these funds and buy their favorite items with discounted price. Then, what is the solution? The solution that if the cloud service provider, he allows you and allows the customer that the service, it can be expanded automatically, then they will have some measures where we will reach to the point that if the number of transactions increased more than 300, then automatically the resources, it will be upgraded. It may be processor, it may be memory, it may be storage, whatever it is, it depends upon the nature of the application. this it will be automatically. And of course, as we highlight, where he is being paid as you go. Then when the transactions it's increased into the normal number, these resources which are added, it will be removed from the server and it will reach to its normal situation. There is another point which I don't know if you are familiar with or not. And this again, it's important, you have to understand. There is, when we say scalability, you have to understand that we have two different concepts, my friends. Something called horizontal scalability. And we have another concept called vertical scalability. Do you know what is the difference between both of them? Do you know what is the difference?
Horizontal scaling is basically, I mean to say, adding up more servers, more storage to it. Vertically is basically to, in terms, I mean to say, whenever there is a peak demand, as there is a seasonal demand, vertical scaling is basically to increase the memory so that the demands are being met. So one is more resources is horizontal, and vertical is more about adding more memory so that the computation and the processing speed is actually increased.
It is right, but it's not accurate.
Okay.
When we are saying vertically, it can be adding memory, it can be adding processors, it can be adding storage, whatever. But the concept, it is right. I have here single server. I have one server here. If I have a vertical upgrade, then as we mentioned in the example, I will upgrade memory, processor, so and so. But if I have concept of horizontal, then I will add another server and I will have a load balancer, for example, and it will load balance between the two servers. Then it depends here about what is the concept. Of course, this depends upon your recommendation. To have more than one server, it will be better for redundancy. It will not affect the user. They will not feel any delay until the resources will be added and all this stuff. Then this is the concept of the vertical and the horizontal. Good answer. Okay. The second characteristics, it's cost of ownership of physical hardware. Folks, here in IaaS, you are minimizing not minimizing, you are removing the cost of any hardware in your data center. In data center, usually you are buying servers, storage, so on and so. Then you start to install your application. Here, you don't need to buy any hardware. And here, the gentlemen, there is a concept, you will hear it too much about the cloud. We are saying that in cloud, you are changing the concept from CapEx into OpEx. Do you know what is the difference between both of them?
I know a little bit.
Okay, please go ahead.
OpEx is your operation expenses that you will spend operating a service or operating something that you in your IT or you across all departments that you will operate day-to-day activity. And CapEx is your you can say capital or expense when you say that we will need this amount of money to spend to start the service, but the OpEx is to operate the service.
Okay, this is the right answer. Which is better for the organization, to pay it in CapEx or pay it in OpEx?
It depends. If you spend much money, you will spend on capex. But if you can install it, like when you buy something, you can buy it $1,000, or you can make an installment for 1 year or 6 months, something like that. But it depends
Okay.
on the service.
The right answer, which I heard now, it depends. Because this answer does not have a right answer. Sorry, this question does not have a right answer, or it does not have a single answer. When I will ask this question, I will check the status of the organization. Let's have an example for two different scenarios, CapEx versus OpEx. I want to make a data center, and I want to rent servers in a cloud service provider. If I want to do my data center, I have to pay 10 millions US dollars to build the data center with the facilities and all the hardware and services. This is a problem for me, or this it will be a problem for the management. 10 million US dollars as a bulk value, it can create a problem. And this, you can have the example as if you want to buy iPhone, the new iPhone, it may cost you $1,100. To pay $1,100, it's not easy, but the shops, they are smart, they will tell you, I can sell it to you by terms. Then you will find that you will pay $1,000 each month, but by the end of the day, it may be expensive because you may pay 12 or 13 $100 instead of 1,100 if you pay it in cash. But by the end of the day, to pay $100 per month, it's much easier than paying at one time 11,000. Although the OpEx, it's in this case, it's expensive than the CapEx, but it will be acceptable from financial point of view. Then here, gentlemen, act smart when you are working with the customers, or if you are working with your organizations. Usually we are saying, wow, OpEx, it's very great because it will, you will pay, instead of paying one time a huge amount, small version, you have to pay it a small value each month. But by the end of the day, if you make your calculations, we found that the OpEx, it will cost you more. Believe it or not, that the OpEx, it will cost you more. But as I told you, to mention to your customer, to your management, that we need $1,000 every month, it is better than tell them we need $10,000 as one shot. They will take it as the OpEx. The impression that the cloud, it will be much, much cheaper than the CapEx, but this is a wrong concept, because you will find that the CapEx, it will, in some situation, if you are using an Excel sheet, but the CapEx, it will be much cheaper. But we have to take another thing in our consideration. And as you will see later, that if you have a cloud service, you don't need security controls, you don't need backup, you don't need operations. Then you will find that you are saving money in different other areas. When you want to make an assessment for a customer or for an organization, if the CapEx is better or OpEx is better, you have to be a general view. You have to take in your consideration how much is the real paying in as a CapEx and OpEx. Also, how much you will save for the administration and the daily operations, because daily operation and administration, it means money, salaries, training, so on. Backup, you have to make a backup. You have to have security controls. If you have a data center, but if you have a cloud, you don't need all the security controls. You may have many on security controls, which it will be additional than the security basics which are provided by the cloud service provider. in some situation, you have to tell your organization, we don't need to think about the disaster recovery, because now we are hosting on the cloud on 2 different data center. When if the first one is down, the second it will take over, and so on. Then you have to take in this in your assessment. It will make the difference between the people who are understanding cloud and people who are understanding IT in general, because IT, it is not just a matter of hosting services. There's a lot of other things. High availability, as we mentioned now, high availability, it will be very helpful, yes, because if you rent a server, the cloud service provider, usually it will ask you, if you want the high availability, you have to pay a little bit more, and he will provide you the redundancy. Then if your virtual machines or the servers provided to you in the main data center is down, automatically it will be migrated into a different data center, and you will be able to continue your operation. Your user, you will not feel anything. But now, if you want to have high availability in your organization data center, then this means that you have to buy 2 servers, and everything you have to buy 2, because even if you have 2 servers and you have single switch, again, this is considered single point of failure. If it's down or whatever, then you will not be able to say that I have redundant configuration. Physical security requirements, this is very important, and of course, take care. I am saying here physical security. When we are saying physical security, these are the security controls required for protecting data centers or your organization. When we are speaking about fencing, we are speaking about lights, we are speaking about CCTVs, we are speaking about security guards, we are speaking about motion detections and all this information. Why you don't need it? Because why do I need it? I don't have any resources in my organization. I don't have a data center at all in my organization. Why I want all these things? If it's related to other security issues for the organization, okay, but this it will not under my budget. It will not be under IT budget. This it will be for the security or whatever. But here, I don't need any physical security for a data center. I don't have a data center to have physical security requirements or physical security controls. The other characteristics, it's location and access dependence. This is very important, gentlemen, and you will feel the importance of this point if your organization have multiple locations, especially if it's distributed across the world. In some situation, you may have an application, and this application, it runs in MEA, for example, with a version, but in America, it may be a different version, versioning numbers, because you are not able to upgrade it in MEA, for example, or you are not able to upgrade it in different locations. When, although it is the same version and it is developed in your organization, but you are not able to upgrade it because you are not able to stop the business for some time till you be able to migrate it or to upgrade it. Also, I don't have any problem where you will access the data. Where you will access the data, I don't have any problem. It can be accessed from any location, because you know, in one of the main problems which we are facing right now with this group now, our colleagues who are resident in Saudi in America, we have the 12 o'clock p.m. Right now. Although now it's our clock, it's 8 p.m. When you'll find this time difference, it may make a problem. And if you want to provide a service or whatever, of course, data center, it will never be down. But just think about the customer services. The customer services or the service desk. The service desk, okay, I can understand that if it's the data center, it's centralized in MEA, for example, and we have the service desk in MEA. Then at 4 o'clock they went home, but 4 o'clock this is considered as 8 almost 8 a.m. in America. In America now, they want someone to be online if they required any help or support to access the resources or the data or the applications from the data center. We are resolving all these problems now in the cloud. It's up and running 24/7, and even you will find a very nice thing that in some situation with the enterprise cloud service providers, they will provide you a service in summer from a specific country, but in winter they will change the country due to the weather, due to the availability of power or availability of manpower. You know that there are some countries where the manpower is cheaper than the others and so on. And this is the feature of the location and access dependency. Metered usage, we spoke about this. Whatever anything you will do it will be measured. Then you will be able to fulfill the service level agreement, and you will fulfill as well the pay as you go. And you will find a lot of other things which it will be very useful for you. Then whatever you are doing, it is measured and it will be logged. You can ask for this log from your cloud service provider. The last point, I don't think that it's important, but it is mentioned that it will be a potential for green data center. It will be a potential for a green data center. It's nice to have, but of course it is not a major concern, but it is nice to have point. Do you have any questions related to yes before moving into the test?
Sir, one question on this green data center. So, is it referring to more towards environmental friendly? Because anyhow, I think
Yes.
for the data center, we will have to maintain the ASHRAE's specific guidelines. But apart from that, are there any other guidelines which are there for a green data center?
Frankly speaking, Prem, I'm not sure. I'm not involved in this green data centers because, frankly speaking, this is not my specialization.
Okay.
But all data centers are green compliant, right? Google and Amazon, they use
Not all of them.
this.
No, not all of them. It depends. It depends. It depends upon the location of the data center and the country. In some situation, you will not be able to provide green data center because the source of the power, which is provided by the country, it's not clean. Then it depends upon the location.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Then now we will speak about the platform as a service. And platform as a service, as we mentioned, this it will provide you the platform for programming languages. For developing applications. Auto-scaling, again, it is the same concept where you can auto-scale your infrastructure. And here, of course, it will be very helpful because in the platform, we will provide you the libraries, we will provide you the programming language, we will provide you a lot of helpful tools which it will help you in your development. Multiple host environment. You can have a multiple host environment. What do we mean by multiple host environment? I like to explain these two, multiple host and choice of environment. Usually, if you are working in a data center in on-prem data center, you will have your standard. For example, I am using Windows Server 2016 and with Service Pack 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. And we are using .NET language for developing application. Then, if I come and tell you, if you use Linux or if you are using a different programming language, it will be better. You will say, I am really sorry, I am not able to do this because we have our infrastructure and we have the production, we have development, testing, and all this hardware are bought and we are installed in our environment. I will not be able to change it right now. But with the PaaS, the scenario it's totally different. Okay, you have in the past, now I have the servers, I contact the cloud service provider, or I make the self-provisioning. I had 5 servers with operating system 2016 and .NET. But after some time, the developer manager, he went for a seminar and he knew that if he will use specific language, programming language under Linux, it may be free of cost. It may be free of charges, and he want to save some money for his organization to be utilized in a different thing. Then he said, okay, let me try to do this exercise. Of course, I will not be able to immediately put all this operating system and application language. What I have to do, I have to make a test environment. Test environment, this means that I have to buy additional servers, I have to buy storage, and so on. But with the PaaS, this it will be very easy. He can cloud provision some servers. He can install the applications, and he can install the operating systems and check it if it's running properly or not. If he's satisfied, he can raise a report for the management, and they can start the migration process. This it will be very easy when you can make the multiple host environment and choice of your environment. You can choose the Linux, you can choose the Unix, you can choose the Windows, you can choose the .NET, you can choose whatever, anything. Now it's very easy. You can add the servers and you can install the platform which it will fit your needs and requirements, and you can test it and choose what is suitable out of it. After you finish all your testing, you can release the servers and you will pay only for the period which you utilize the servers. And of course, it will lead into the flexibility. It will lead into flexibility. And it will be ease of upgrade. Why it will be ease of upgrade? Gentlemen, one of the main problems which we found, it is upgrades. Let me give you an example. I remembered I started studying security since 2000. Since 2000, no. Yes, since 2000. Yes, since 2000. I started security since 2000. At that time, we were taught that one of the main attacks, it is the SQL injection. One of the main attacks, SQL injection, in year 2000. Till this moment, in 2022 or 2023, if you go to the WASP 10, you will find the SQL injection is still one of the attacks which is considered as top 10 attacks in the world. Why? If the people know about this attack since 23 years, why they are keeping their servers vulnerable for an attack which all the people know it, and you can upgrade it very easily, and you can upload the fix, and you can solve this problem? I found the answer from my work as a consultant. It is not easy to make the upgrade. It is not easy to stop the operation and make the upgrade, except in large organizations. In large organizations, they will have 3 platforms. They will have production, they will have development, and they will have testing. And all these platforms are split. Of course, it will cost them small version. I know that. Because if you are saying that, for example, if you want to install an enterprise content management software, you may need 10 or 15 servers. and maybe 1 terabyte, 10 terabyte storage or whatever. Then this means that you have to make a copy for this configuration 3 times. When we will be able to test the update, and if it's safe, then we can upload it into the production. And here is of upgrade. Why? Because if you don't have the redundancy, you will not be able to make the upgrade. What is the relation between redundancy and upgrade? Do you know what is the relation between upgrade, ease of upgrade, and device redundancy? Any answer? Okay. If you have a redundancy, this means that you have 2 servers, for example, and both of them are running the same application, maybe as a cluster, 2 servers considered in a form of a cluster. Then if you want to make the upgrade, you can stop the production, and the other, it will take over until you upgrade the production. Then after you upgrade the production, you can upgrade the standby server. Then the ease of upgrade here. Why ease of upgrade? Because the cloud, it will provide you redundancy. As I told you, the servers which you have, this is in form of what we call it, virtual server. Then all what you have to do, that this virtual server, it must be redundant. Then if there is any problem on the host or on your server, automatically it will be migrated or generated on a different host, and the user, he may feel that there is delay or something like that, but it will take over and he will continue his operation. All his data, it will be migrated, the server, it will be migrated, everything, it will be migrated without any problem. And this is the explanation of ease of upgrade. Cost effective, I think this is very clear right now. It's very cost effective because there is no need for all the investment, whatever you are using, only what you need. There is no need to have an infrastructure for testing, and you will pay a fortune for it just because you want to make some specific test. But if you want to make any test, you can provision a server, utilize it. Then after that, you can disable, deprovision this server and cancel it from your usage. Ease of access, as we mentioned, this is very easy. You can access it through the internet. You can access it through any device. You can access it through any operating system, because by the end of the day, it can be any form of browser, or it can be, it has a native client or whatever. It depends upon the nature of the service which you have from your cloud service provider. The licensing also, it is one of the main important issues. Here, if you have a data center in your organization, what are the type of license do you need? You need a license for the server operating system. You need a license for the database. You need a license for the programming language. And if you have other libraries or whatever, you need a license. And you need then this means that a license for a lot of and of course license for the desktop, which it will utilize this server. But now with the PaaS, I don't care about all these licenses. I don't care. This is the responsibility of the cloud service provider. This is the responsibility of the cloud service provider. The cloud service provider, he have to provide me a charge, a monthly charge, and this monthly charge include all the license. Then I don't have to make any licenses management. I don't have to make any license management. This is not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility. It is the cloud service provider. They have to work on it, and they have to provide the right licenses, and this will be the responsibility of the cloud service provider. Any questions for the PaaS before going to the SaaS?
I have one question here, Mr. Osama.
Sure.
When we mention redundancy, right? And we mentioned, I think before that in OS, high availability. So I know there is a difference, but can you give us an example about that?
Redundancy and high availability. Okay, this is a good question. Redundancy, usually we are saying when you have component redundancy. But high availability, it will be full server, not server, full appliance. Yeah, for example, when we're saying I have RAID 5, this it will be considered what? Redundancy or high availability?
This will be high availability.
No, it will be redundancy. Because
Okay.
when we are saying high availability, this it will be a different, two servers. This it will be high availability. But when we are saying components, multiple, different components in server, then this it will be redundant power supply. You are hearing since a long time redundant power supply. We are not saying high availability power supply. We are saying redundant power supply. Then when we come to multiple components, it will be redundancy. When we are saying availability, then this it will be the whole set of the device. It may be a server, it may be a switch, maybe a router, it may be load balancer, it may be firewall, it may be IBS, whatever. Okay.
Okay. So for example, for firewall, we know which I have two firewall, right?
You are right, because this it's not a component; it's a full device. Yes, this usually you will find in the tabs of the firewall HA. We will never say redundancy in this case. We will never say redundancy. We will
But
say high
redundancy is
availability.
like redundancy. Let's say it's a component like you mentioned inside the firewall. You have two port of RJ45, right?
Okay, yes, you are right. Or you have a server with two power supply.
Okay, if we put the aspect of location here, it will be under high availability, right?
Of course. Because do you think that you can have a server with two power supply? The second one, it will be in a different data center?
No, but I
Or
mean
if you
like
have a server with two network interface cards, you can have one in a different location.
like if you have a data center and you have one electricity from company and or one cable of internet from SCC and one from mobile.
Say it again. I did not get the example which you want to say. Can you repeat?
When you have like two line of internet.
Okay. This what? Is it redundancy or high availability?
As far as I know now, it should be high availability.
Yes, it is high availability. Because by the end of the day, it is each one of them, they are provide the same service as each other.
Okay, got it. Yeah, خلاص. Okay, yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. The third one, the SaaS, and the SaaS, of course, support cost and efforts. SaaS, this piece of cake, very, very nice. You don't need anything. Even if you don't have administrator, I don't care. Just imagine 360, open browser, 360.com, you are up and running. No support, cost for support, it is very minimal. You can have a technician with 1 year experience, 2 years experience, then he will be able to check why the machine is not running, if they have a problem with the network, if they have a problem with the connectivity to the network, and so on. But the support, it is very, very, very minimal compared with any data centers. Reduced overall cost, you don't need anything. You don't need anything. I don't need hardware. I don't need data center. I don't need data center facilities, AC, power supply, so and so, power, and all these things. I don't need applications. I don't need programming. I don't need backup. You don't need anything. Then, of course, it's reduced overall cost. Licensing, again, as we explain it, you don't have anything to do it here. It's not my problem. I don't care about license. I will never care about license or license management, or someone he have to monitor the license every year and make sure that it's valid if there is any external audit or whatever. This is not his responsibility at all. This is the responsibility for the cloud service provider, and the cloud service provider, they have to include the cost of the license in the monthly fees. Ease of use and administration. I don't think there is any need to explain this. I think even now, when you will open the browser and type 360 or iCloud or Box or whatever, immediately you have the application. And even if you don't have any experience with the application, you will be able to use it without any support or any advice from anyone to how to use it as the normal or old applications. I remember since 20 or 30 years, if we had any application, you need someone to show you how you can browse through the menus and how you can access the different options and all this stuff. Now, life is very easy. Everything, it's GUI. You can click it by mouse and welcome. Standardization. What do we mean by standardization? Standardization here, gentlemen, it means that you have a standard infrastructure if you have multiple locations. You remember the example which I gave it to you in the first of the first. In the beginning of this session, when I told you in some situation you may have one operating system, and this operating system, it has a patch, and the new patch is loaded in a region, but it's not loaded in other region. Then it's not standard here. It's not standard. Why? Because you are not able to stop the business in the all the location to upgrade the service back or version of the operating system or whatever. Then here in the cloud service with the cloud service providers, like, it's very easy, because the cloud service provider will be responsible for upgrading the infrastructure, and once it's upgraded, the same infrastructure, it will be accessed by whole branches or whole areas or regions which we are accessing the service from the same organization. Even if it's in a different country, again, we will not face any problem. If you make one upgrade, this upgrade, it will be valid for all of the other regions. When you made sure that the versions of the operating systems, of the fixes, of the applications are exactly the same in all locations. Before going to
1 minute, sir. Can we go back to the previous slide? So my question is, how this licensing, SaaS licensing, different from PaaS licensing?
It is not different. It's not different. It has the same concept.
Okay.
Same concept. Now we mentioned that we have 3 different types which are popular and all the people know it. IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. But this is not the end of the world. Now we have a lot of other services, and sometimes they call it, gentlemen, as did you hear this expression before? This, which they call it everything as a service. Whatever, any service you can install it in a cloud server, in data center, it can provide it through cloud. This is the reason we are saying everything as a service. Everything as a service. In the new version of the CCSP, they gave us some services, and it's nice to understand. Compute as a service, CAAS. What is compute as a service? Compute as a service, mainly it can be utilized in digital transformations. When you are speaking about high computing load or traffic required, processors and so on. And in sometimes this, it will be related to serverless. What do you mean by serverless? Serverless means that you are not provisioning a server. You don't provision a server, but you would say that I have an application and it has some functionality and it requires to be processed. Then it will be processed in a form of cycle of memory and processor and storage until it will be finalized, the exercise, then it will be dropped. Then this means that there is no need to go and provision a service and install your application and everything, and after that you can run the service. No, now just provide this service which you need or the application, and it will be handled by the cloud service provider to make all the exercise, the server and everything. You will not pay for the service. Server, you will pay only for the computing, and after the service it will be completed, it will be dropped. On the server, it will be dropped. Database as a service, they can provide a common database hosted in a cloud service provider, and they provide you a license for it. Then you will be able to access it to store or retrieve data. Desktop as a service, this is the desk where you are able to access a desktop, your desktop from your mobile, tablet, PC, or whatever. And of course, the DAS, one of the main usage of the DAS, that you are controlling the security controls over the environment. Identity as a service, this identity management, where you will have user credentials, passwords, so and so, and it will be stored in the cloud service provider. There is no need to have Active Directory or anything like that in your infrastructure. This, it will be hosted in a cloud service provider. Network as a service, this which we call it SDN, software defined network, SDN, software defined network. Forget about this, it's not a big issue. If you don't understand network as a service, forget about it, because it will not represent any problem for the cloud. But this, it's considered as techniques where you are able to develop network based on software requirements, and this is mainly used to build a private network over a public network. This, it's very confusing, and don't think about it. If you don't understand it, just bypass it. Storage as a service. Of course, you are familiar with this one. All of us have subscription with iCloud or Box.com, or there are a lot of services where we can buy 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte or 10 terabyte, and you can store all your photos and documents and everything on the cloud. Security as a service. In security as a service now, there is no need to buy the firewalls and IPS and everything. This, it can be utilized through the cloud service provider. You will publish your domain name or service on the IP address of the cloud service provider. He will receive the connection over the internet. He will make the checking, and if it's okay and it does not have any problem, it will enable a VPN tunnel between the cloud service provider and your organization. And this means that you don't need to buy firewalls or IPS or VPN SSL or whatever. All this, it will be done in the cloud service provider, and if the security checks passed in the cloud service provider, he will pass the traffic into your organizations through VPN tunnel, which it will be a secure environment. Any questions for this session?
So how is it mapped to PaaS, SaaS, or the IaaS, or it's separate altogether?
No, this is totally separate.
Okay.
I have a question here, Mr. Sama.
Sure.
Let's say you have Microsoft Azure, for example, which is a platform as a service, right? And then you get your application, get your data. In that time, you will get like purchase a firewall from FortiGate or Palo Alto or whatever, and then you will configure it and put your data in it. So now we are saying this is a platform as a service, which is Azure, right? And we will get our application, our data, and installing it. Now here, security as a service, we are talking only about like a component in platform, right? So should it be this like a mix, or let's say a desktop as a service? We get an operating system, installing a new VM, right? So I'm not sure here when they say desktop as a service or security as a service, we already have it in platform as a service, and we can choose whatever service
Muhammad,
we want
your
or
voice
whatever application we
is
want.
broken.
Here,
Your
what
voice is
exactly
broken,
is
and I cannot hear you. Your voice is broken, and I cannot
okay?
hear you, Muhammad.
Now still also broken?
Now it's okay.
Okay, so I was saying that we have like for Microsoft Azure or AWS, and we have that platform and service, and we can choose whatever application we want, and we put our data. Now, when we say desktop as a service, we can just in Azure create a virtual machine or create a server, whatever we want, and we also in the security as service we can choose our firewall or IPS, IDS, any applications that we want regarding security. So I'm saying here desktop as a service or security as a service. What is the difference between just the scenario that I said? What they give you more, or what is
What is the
less work
difference
that you're-
between what? What is the difference between what?
the examples that I just said, and here's the desktop as a service, or what is the minimum work that we will do? Because now it's a desktop as a service or a security as a service. You get my point?
No. Desktop as a service, it will provide you a PC where you can work on it. Desktop as a service, it will provide you a desktop. When you log in, you will find a Windows screen, type your username and password. It will open a Windows screen and you can work on it. You can install application, remove application, install data, run data, open browser, whatever. Security as a service, it is totally different. Security as a service, this you are renting firewall, renting antivirus or anti-malware.
Okay, but you are renting them on a platform, right?
Here, when you are saying platform here, when we are saying cloud platform, this means that platform for programming. I am not renting here for platform programming. I have ES. Suppose that I have ES. I have servers in Azure. I have 5 servers and I want to have my firewall. It's not a PaaS. It's a ES. Then now I mentioned to the Azure place I want 5 servers or I want 15 servers, 5 servers in the DMZ, and I need 10 servers in as internal network, and I want to manage the traffic between the 2 zones through a firewall. This is workable.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have any platform here at all. I am still working in physical area.
Okay, and in that physical area, okay, you will have desktop as a service, right? The 5 server, for example, that you have.
Don't confuse between desktop as a servers and the virtual machine as for a server. This is a wrong concept from the virtualization. When you are saying that desktop as a service, this is a desktop. Okay, this is a desktop. But when we say that you have a server, this, yes, it's a virtualization machine, but again, it is ES. But by the end of the day, it's ES.
Okay. Okay. So
Okay.
these are 6 or 7 capabilities are not part of ES or PaaS or SaaS.
No. It is not. No,
Okay.
it is not. It is not. It is not. Of course, if you want to make a correlation, I can do it, but I don't want to make life difficult. Yani, this is not our target now. Now our target, that when you are speaking about capabilities, yes, says best. When they said everything as a service. Now I like everything as a service. As you can see, desktop as a service, security as a service, database as a service, identity as a service, encryption as a service. Now when you go to any cloud service provider, AWS, Google, they will provide you thousands of services. But it cannot be related 100% into yes, best says, but it can be interrelated. Any
Okay.
other questions? Okay. Okay. Thank you for coming back. Let's continue our session for the cloud deployment models. In the first session, we explained the capabilities, which are the ES, SaaS, and PaaS. And we mentioned that there are some other models as a computer as a service, security as a service, desktop as a service, identity as a service. Usually now we are calling everything as a service. Whatever any service, it can run in a data center, it can be provided as a service from a cloud service provider. We will start now a very important topic, very, very important topic, and I really appreciate your attention to understand the differences between the deployment models. We have 4 deployment models: public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, and hybrid cloud. These are the 4 models which we have, and we don't have anything else. Not as yes, says BAS. We said that we have others. Till this moment, we have only public, private, community, and hybrid. What are the differences between these different models? In the public cloud, this is the general public. It is a public cloud provided to anyone, as Office 365, as iCloud, as Box.com, as Drive.com, whatever. Then this, it will be provided generally for public use. This is for public use. Anyone, he can make subscription and he can utilize the service. It will be located in a cloud service provider premises. When the cloud service provider, he will have this service and it's hosted in his data center. It is hosted in his data center. It can be owned by the cloud service provider. It can be owned by a different organization. It can be owned by institute, academy, whatever. When the owner, it can be the cloud service provider himself, or it can be a different organization. Yeah, for example, I have an application, whatever application, any application, and I want to provide it as a SaaS for all the users. Then I will go to AWS or Google or Azure, and I will install my application there. This, it's called as a public cloud. I make the application, and it will be published for all the user in as a cloud service, and it will be owned by my organization which hosting this application. Then what is the role of the cloud service provider here? The cloud service provider, he will be only hosting the service. It will be hosting the service, but I am the owner and I am the one who will handle and manage this application. Easy setup and inexpensive for customer. This is very cheap. Of course, you know, if you want to have a subscription, usually for storage, for example, you can have up to 10 GB for free or 100 GB for free. Then after that, you have to pay $1 for 50 GB or $2 for 1 terabyte. Yani, you will find that it's very cheap. And even for the Office 365, you have to pay maybe $10 only for a family license. I have a family license for $10. Then these are the main characteristics of the public cloud. That the public cloud, it's provided for public users, and it is located in cloud service provider premises. It's owned by a private company or cloud service provider or other organization. And finally, it is very easy to be set up and to be used, and it is in. Okay, we have a challenge here for the public cloud. If I have a public cloud, this means that I will be able to access a service with other users or other customers. And this means that my data may be vulnerable, and the other user can access this data by some workarounds or whatever. Then if I am a big organization, I don't want to have my data to be published over a public network. Then what will be the alternative? The alternative to have a private cloud. To have a private cloud. What is a private cloud? The private cloud here, it is owned and controlled by single entity. For example, I am working in organization X. When organization X, we have their own cloud. Is it shared with other customers? No, it is not shared with other customers. It's only dedicated for this organization X. This organization X, for example, it can be holding company, and we have other subsidiaries or affiliates or under its umbrella. When all of them represent one company, they can use the service. But this, it will not allow to anyone else to access this service. That is owned and controlled by single entity. Take care about these expressions. It is single entity. In the public cloud, it is general public. Here, it is single entity. Okay? And primary, it will be used for what? For access cloud services for a single organization, as we mentioned. When this, it will be a single organization. This organization, they may have some affiliates, or they may have subsidiaries, or whatever, or even if it's a single company, whatever. But again, no one who will be able to access or have access for this network or cloud service rather than this organization. This means that they are isolated, and this, it will be secure. No one who will be able to access their data or application. It can be operated by the organization, the owner, or it can be operated by a third party. For example, as I mentioned, I am organization X, but I want to have my private cloud. I don't have the experience, then I will hire a third party to run it for me. Still, I am the owner. Still, it is a single entity which he will use it, but it's managed by my staff, or if I don't have the competence for this, then I can utilize a third party who can run or operate this private cloud for me. It can be located on or off premises. What do you mean by that? I can have a private cloud as a data center, and it has a private cloud. Let me ask you a question here. What you are saying now, it's really a bit confusing. You are saying private cloud and it will be located on-prem. Type. What is the difference between private cloud and on-prem data center? It is exactly the same. You said that it's owned and controlled by single entity. Yes, it is owned and controlled by organization X. Primary for their own purpose, of course, data center is their own purpose. May be operated by organization or third party, it's by organization. Can be located on or off premises, the data center, it's off premises. Then can be used by different departments with internal billing, again, the same as the data center. Then what is the difference between the private cloud and the data center?
For a private
Location.
cloud, it has to follow all the 5 features of on-demand access, broad access network, rapid elasticity, and other things. But I think in a on-prem data center, it will not follow all the 5 features of the cloud computing.
Okay. Any other answer?
Location.
What do you mean by location?
You might have for an on-premise data center, it will be in the same location as you are, let's say, in the same region or Saudi Arabia or the same country. When you have private cloud, maybe it will be located outside and it's owned by a third party.
No, it can be owned by the same organization and it can be hosted, as we mentioned here, on or off-prem. Think about it. These questions, it will give you the flavor of the exam. It will not come direct question. It will come indirect. Although you know the answer. But how you can think about it in a proper way. It will make the difference between those people who are understanding and the others who are memorizing it. Think about it.
The private cloud is here, it's mentioned that different department was billing internal billing. Other than the data center, it will only the IT, the ownership for it will be the IT only.
I did not mention here ownership at all. I say even it can be internal billing as well for the data center. Okay. The right answer, it is the answer which was given by Prem. This is the 100% right answer. The difference between the private cloud and the data center, it is the characteristics of the cloud. You know why now I was concentrating on the characteristics and I mentioned that these are very important and you have to understand it very well, because now you can differentiate between private cloud and the data center. In data center user, we cannot do self-provisioning. We cannot do shared resources. We cannot do a lot of things. Although, or shared resources, it's available. Yes, we can utilize virtualization, but we cannot do it as self-provisioning. When self-provisioning is not there, it cannot be accessed from any location. It cannot be accessed from any location. It cannot be accessed by tablet, so and so, and all this stuff. This requires additional services to be able to. Then, if the private cloud, it has the characteristics which define the private cloud, then we are, it is represented as a private cloud. The question now, again for you, why do I need a private cloud? Why I call it private cloud? Then let's do it as data center, and I have a data center now and everything is running fine. Why I should make restructure for my application, restructure for infrastructure, restructure for user access and all this stuff to change my data center into private cloud? Why? What is the benefit?
Because of the security, they may not want to share with the tenants, different tenants. So it should be the single tenant and the private cloud.
It's a private cloud. And if you are being multiple tenants because you have different departments or different users, still the same concept. in the data center?
It's simply to get the cloud benefits, right, Usama?
This one of the right answers. Yes, you are right. You are right. This is one of the right answers. To get the private cloud features, I want to make self-provisioning for the users. I want the users to be able to access their services from any location all over the world with any type of devices, with any type of iOS. Yes, you are right, Prem. What else? There is another one reason.
Cost efficiency.
No. This it will be a preparation if you want to move into public cloud. If you want to move into a public cloud, or if you want to move into a cloud service provider to host your infrastructure and save all your cost for the data center and its facilities, then run it as a private cloud, check what will be the problems, resolve all these problems, then you will be ready. And you can go to the cloud service provider and tell him, I want to have it as a private cloud in a cloud service provider. Then it will be a preparation phase to host these applications in a cloud service provider. These questions, it will give you the feelings of the exam. As you can see, gentlemen, all the answers except the last one, it is from the manual, from the book. I did not answer the question with a different answer. It is the information which you know it, which you studied in your course. And this it will be the different type of the exams. Okay. Then, as you can see, that the public cloud, it's totally different from the private cloud. Yani public and private, they are what we can say one thing and the opposite thing. What about the community? The community in the public, we mentioned that it is owned by the cloud service provider, private by single entity. Now, community cloud, here it will be owned by a group of similar organizations, which we have the same interest. As what? Universities, hospitals, schools, colleges, whatever. All these people, we have the same interest and we want to access some data, common data between all of them. In this case, you can create the community cloud, which it can serve this group of users. Then it is model and similar to the private cloud, but it is service multiple users, of course, managed and controlled by member organizations. If it's universities, then one of the university may be responsible for it, or again, it can be a cloud service provider who run it. It can exist on-prem or off-prem. When we say on-prem, this means that it can be hosted in one of the universities or one of the hospitals or one of the government. For example, you know, in Saudi Arabia, we have a community cloud for all government sectors. In all government sectors, this community cloud, it can be hosted in one government, or it can be hosted in a cloud service provider inside Saudi Arabia. Whatever, it will not make any change where all these services are hosted. Okay, then the community now, it will represent group of organizations, group of users. Private, it is single entity. Public, as it means public, all users in the world. What is the hybrid? Hybrid, it's very important cloud, and you will hear this a lot. What is a hybrid cloud? Hybrid cloud, it is a very simple definition. Hybrid cloud, it's composed of two different cloud models, public, private, or community. Any two of them, it will represent hybrid cloud. Any two of them will represent hybrid cloud. For example, I am a government sector, and I have very critical data, and I don't want to give access to anyone or to have it as a private, as a public for everyone, because it is important data and it's critical and sensitive. When this means that I have to choose the private cloud. If you don't want other people to share the infrastructure with you, then use it as a private cloud. Okay, I can understand. I'll do it as private cloud. I can see that there is a shot, but let me finish this point first. Then, what will happen now if the authorities came and said, you are a government sector, we want you to be a part of government community. Then this means that you will have two different types. The private cloud, which hosts all your applications and data, and you will have community cloud, which it will host common data for the government. Both of them are totally separated. By security measures, so and so. Yani, community, it will not be able to access the private. Yani, don't say that I am part of a community, then I will be able to access the private cloud of other government sector. No. Private, it's private. No one you will be able to touch it. Though you are a member of a community, but again, you will not be able to touch this private cloud at all. Then this means that this government area, which it has private cloud for its services, and we have a community cloud for sharing information with government sectors, then this means that we have hybrid cloud. And this is the common model which you will find it. As you understand that there is something called information classification. Whatever any sensitive data, critical data management, we don't like to publish over the internet. Then we will say, okay, I will have the application to be run on two different platforms. The critical data, it will be hosted inside the organization, and the normal and non-critical data, it will be hosted in a cloud service provider. In this case, you have hybrid cloud. Why? Because this is considered as a public cloud and a private cloud. Oh, this is a big question. One of the major benefits comparing the private cloud and...
Oh, that was not question, Osama. Just you can ignore it.
Fine, okay. When these are the differences between the public, private, community, and hybrid. This is very important. While we are going in the next sessions, I will give you more and more information to understand how you can evaluate cloud service providers. Every cloud service provider, he come and tell you, I have a strong private cloud. And by the end of the day, you will find that it's not strong because we have some characteristics which are not achieved. Anyway, we will discover all this information later. Fine. Before going further, do you have any question?
So one question is, what about the regulatory or the compliance implication when we move to the public cloud instead of private cloud, right? If suppose it's a federal government, they may not go to public cloud. They can use.
Sorry, can you repeat again? I did not understand your question.
No, my question is, what about the regulatory or the compliance implication when you move from private cloud to public cloud? So suppose there is a federal government, they may not go to the public cloud because of the compliance issue. They can use their private cloud. No, you asked, right? It depends.
It depends. If you have sensitive data, you will not be able. If you have the data, you can split the data into critical and non-critical, keep the critical into the public, in the private cloud, and move the non-critical data into the public cloud. Then in this way, you will have hybrid cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sanat, the cloud providers, right? So they follow certain types of regulations. So they're not necessarily all in US, not necessary these all major cloud providers has to follow the regulations. But if let's say if Macy's wants to do business with GCP or like AWS, right? So Macy's has its own org policies, and depending upon this, whether it's a public sector or the government organization, like let's say we need SOC 2 or Type 2 compliance. If they're following, then we'll go with them. If not, we'll go with the other people. So mostly the major compliance are followed by all the cloud providers.
Right.
So the request should come from the cloud customers. So then accordingly they will we can choose which provider we want. And at least the Macy's we are doing like that.
Mhm.
Also, I think you will find detailed answer for your question in module number 6. When just keep this aside, because in module number 6 we will cover all these compliance and regulation issues, and I will explain you how you can make sure that you are compliance for your organization, for your area or territory for the set. Okay, then I think the cloud, this is a summary for the public cloud: easy setup, scalability, right sizing resources. Private cloud, it's ownership retention. With private cloud, you have full ownership. Of course, in the public cloud, you don't have ownership. The ownership, it is for the cloud service provider. You don't have any ownership here. You don't have any control. But in the private cloud, this usually used if you have critical data, if you want to have full control over your data, if it's a part of regulations and compliance, if this data it's critical and you don't want to be shared, then the private cloud, it will be for ownership retention, control over systems. You have full control. It is hosted under your responsibility, and you have full control, even security and whatever, any devices or applications or whatever. Also, in some situation, private cloud, it can be good if you have a proprietary software or data form. Of course, this is an old application. And frankly speaking, I did not face this case, but in some situations, we are saying, no, it is available. You may have an old application or old database, and it's structured in a proprietary format, and you are not able to move this data into a cloud service provider because the cloud service provider does not support this type of format. It's not a standard one. There's a cloud service provider, as you will see later, we will have something called lock-in. We are saying usually try to use whatever any standard thing. Don't try to use any proprietary thing, even if it will provide your more features. Don't again utilize it. Why? We will understand later. When in the private cloud, where you have the ownership retention, you have control over the systems, you have the ability to host any non-standard or proprietary data or application or database format. In the community cloud, it is a collaboration between organizations which they have the same interest, and usually it can be compared as a private cloud. Yani we can say that the private cloud, it is serving single customer. The community cloud, it is serving a specific group of customers to make life easy. The community cloud, it is a public cloud, but instead of serving one customer, it is serving group of customers which we have the same interest. Finally, the hybrid cloud, as we mentioned, you can split the systems for optimization and for data criticality. If you have a critical data and you don't want this data or application to be hosted outside, then it will be hosted in the application. And non-critical data, it can be hosted outside in a cloud service provider, and there will be orchestration between the public and the private to work together. It can be as a disaster recovery design. For example, now you want to have a disaster recovery. Do you know what is disaster recovery? What is disaster recovery?
Restoration back to services.
Sorry?
Restoration back to services, to normal operations.
Yes. And this it can, here we mean by in a different data center. When this means that you have a production data center, this data center is down for any reason, and you want to have a disaster recovery, when the services, it will fail over to a different data center. And if you want to do it a different data center, then this means that you must have a data center, you must have facilities, you must have AC, you must have power, you must have the servers, storage, and everything in other data center be ready if the production one is down. And this means that both, and in some situation you may not need it, because this it will be only active if there is a disaster. But if there is no disaster, then this it will not be utilized, and this it will mean that you are paying money for nothing. But if we are utilizing the the cloud service provider, that I have my private network in on-prem, and if there is any disaster, then the data, it will be migrated into a cloud service provider. It will be migrated into cloud service provider. What is the benefit here? Benefit that you will not pay money until the data or the application, it will fail over. Because as we mentioned, in cloud service provider, it's pay as you go. When you move the data, or the data center is down, and you move or fail over the service into the cloud service provider, you start to calculate the cost. And it will be ready. There is no, you don't need to have a data center, you don't need to have power, AC, facilities, so on and so. Then this will be an excellent solution for disaster recovery solutions. Also, the scalability. What do you mean by scalability here? It's a very important, gentlemen. Suppose that I have a private cloud. I am a big organization. I have all my data critical, and I don't want to host it in a cloud service provider. That's fine. Okay, then I have a private cloud because I want to utilize all the features and characteristics of the cloud. But I have a problem. I discovered that in some situation, the load is very high and my servers are not capable to handle these loads. What I have to do? I have to buy additional servers, but this means money. And this traffic, or this burst, which called burst, I don't know if I am announce it in right way. Then let me write it to you. This burst, it may happen once or twice or 3 or 5 times per year. What will be the solution? The solution that if I have this burst, then I can fill over some of my traffic into a cloud service provider. Then this means that I will use the cloud service provider only in one case, when I will have burst. If I don't have any burst, then I am running in my private cloud. I will not move any non-critical data into the cloud service provider. But if I have a problem and my server reached 100% and all this stuff, then I can move some of the data temporarily to the cloud service provider. It will be processed, and after the burst, it will vanish. I can call this server data again, and this means that the servers which I created in the cloud service provider, it will be de-provisioned, and I will not pay any additional money for it. Then these are the characteristics of the public, private, community, and hybrid clouds. Okay. This slide.
Sir, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
On the cloud busting. So I'm just taking an example. Okay, I have a hybrid model. I have 3 applications. A, B, C. A is data sensitive. B and C are non-critical data. So what I do is that I'm running all the applications A, B, C, all of them I'm running in private only. And let us say for my critical data application A, suddenly I find, I mean to say the load is very high, and there is a cloud busting happening. So will I move the application A, which deals with critical data, to the public cloud, or will I actually move the application B and C, which are non-critical data, from private to public? But I mean to say the load is only on the application A, which deals with critical data. Which of the applications I will do the cloud busting?
B and C.
B and C. Okay.
Yes.
Even though the load is not high on B and C, I will
Yes.
move it.
Why? Because if you are running a pure cloud application, then this means that you are sharing resources, right? When instead of utilizing resources with B and C, you can free some of these resources and it can be utilized with application A, and B and C, it can run on the cloud.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, gentlemen, I need your attention. It is very important. Still, we have almost 40 minutes. But this slide, it's very important. It has a lot of concepts, and I want you to understand it very well. Concept number one, it's interoperability. These expressions, you will hear it a lot in the cloud, and you have to understand it very well, not for the exam, but for your life. If you want to work with the cloud, you have to understand this. Interoperability. What is interoperability? Interoperability that different components of the same application to work together. Interoperation. There is an interoperations here. There is interoperation. What do we mean? If you have a service running on the cloud, it consists of multiple components. And of course, you are familiar, if you have a service, hosting service, you have a lot of components. Yeah, for example, if you are speaking about enterprise content management, we are speaking about front-end servers, we are speaking about index servers, we are speaking about archiving servers, we are speaking about database, we are speaking about storage, we are speaking about a lot of components. We want to make sure that all these components are can work in together, even if they are migrated or if it can utilized from one cloud service provider and others. When if we have one component and we want to migrate a service from one cloud service provider to another one, then we want to make sure that it will run without any problems. How we can make sure that it will run without any problems? If it's standard. If it is standard. What do we mean by standard? There is no proprietary design. In some situation, you may find some companies where will provide you application. It is their own application. You are paying for it, and they will provide you a database structure which is totally different from the one which you are familiar with or the people familiar with, because it will provide more redundancy. It will increase the storage space and so on. It's not compatible, because if you will try to migrate it into a different cloud service provider, it will not be run. Then the interoperability means that there is an interoperation between all the components. All components must be able to run together, even if it's migrated from a cloud service provider to another, or from cloud service provider into on-prem infrastructure. With the interoperability. The other concept which you have to take it in your mind, performance, availability, and resiliency. When you will make migration into your application into a cloud, you have to take these factors in your consideration. Number one, performance. You have to check the performance. It is very important, gentlemen. Sometimes applications may not be able to migrate it into a cloud. Why? Because there may be some delay. Yani, for example, let me give you an example. If you have what we can say, any collaboration tool, and this collaboration tool, it is running perfect in your organization. But if you migrate into the cloud and host it in the cloud, there may be some delay when videos and recordings, it may not be possible, or there will be a delay, and this, it will affect the performance of the service. You know, when we are working with Zoom, for example, if I want to work with Zoom and I want to make sure that I am able to provide a good performance for my trainees, then this means that I have to ask for 100 or 200 megabit per second bandwidth. But if I'm in Egypt, for example, 100 megabit per second, it's not easy, and it's not available due to some restrictions in the infrastructure. Then what I will face that there is a delay. I'm not able to do my training. The connection, it will be broken. It will be slow. Recording, it will not work properly, and so on. But you have to take the performance in your consideration. In some situation where you are making the assessment for the application, is it suitable to be migrated? No, it is not. It is not suitable to be migrated into the cloud. Also, the availability. You have to make sure that your application, it will be available by using redundancy. This redundancy, it can be server redundancy, storage redundancy, component redundancy, and so on. And if you are migrating the application, you have to make sure that this application, it can run on a cluster server, or it can support redundancy, and so on. Then this, it will be a part of your exercise because you are understanding the application. Besides, what are the services provided by the cloud service provider? The cloud service provider, he can tell you, you can have 2 servers. These 2 servers can be configured as a cluster. Or you can have 2 independent servers, and they can work as by using a load balancer, additional device, which it will load balance the traffic between the 2 servers, and so on. Again, the resiliency that users should not feel that there is any downtime. With resiliency, it's preferred to have it in a different location. If you have a data center in your country, the second data center, it should be in a different, I don't want to say different country because this is very difficult, but we can say different city, at least a different city, to make sure that everything is running fine. Okay, what is the third cutting aspect which we have to think about it when we are migrating our data? Interoperability. Portability. What is portability? It's very easy. I can move my application or service from one cloud service provider to another without any problems. Without any problems. This means that I will be able to run the application without any configuration, without any customization, without anything. Don't tell me that I have special settings here. It will run with the cloud service provider X and it will not run with Y. This, it's not a portability. Portability, it means that it can run with any cloud service provider. If you have a pass, you are using a cloud service provider platform to do an application. If you are using a standard language for programming and standard library, I don't have any problem. This library, it will be available in the other cloud service provider, and you can run the application. But in a case, if the cloud service provider, he provides you a proprietary a library, then this means that whatever any components used from this library, you will not be able to run it if you are migrate to other data, to other cloud service provider. When your application is not portable, and this means that you are stuck. You are stuck with the cloud service provider. Stuck in a cloud service provider, we call it lock-in. We call it lock-in. in. What do you mean by lock in? Lock in means that you are not able to move your application from the cloud service provider to another. Then if he provide you bad service, you cannot say anything. If he increase the charges, you cannot say anything. If he have viruses or malware, you cannot say anything. Why? Because you will not be able to move your application. That's what we call portability. Also portability from one cloud service to another, and also from one cloud service provider into the data center, into your data center. Can we have a scenario where I cannot move it into my data center if I want to migrate it as on-prem? And there are a lot of scenarios which we see it. People remove their application into the cloud because they thought that it is good and it would be cost effective, and they did not do their exercise properly. And after some time, they discover that the performance is very slow and we want to get it back. If the application, it was bending about some proprietary specific controls or libraries or whatever in the cloud service provider, this means that you will not be able to get it back into the on-prem. Why? Because it is using some components which are not standard from the cloud service provider. But if you are using standard components, then it is very easy to move it back into the on-prem data center. This, it was the portability. Service level agreement, or we call it SLA. This is a very, 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 very important, gentlemen. Because the service level agreement, it will define exactly what you require, and this, it will consider it as the agreement between you and the cloud service provider. I don't want the server processor to utilization to be more than 75%. I don't want the memory utilization to be more than 90%. I want the available storage to be at least 1 terabyte. I want to have redundancy for all my services. I don't want any downtime at all. I want 365 by 24 by 7 service, and so on. The service level agreement, it is very important. It's very important. You have to define whatever any requirements, especially security requirements. I want to have a control between the data exchange between the multiple virtual servers using a firewall. No traffic, it can move from one server to another except by firewall. I don't want any traffic to be moved into a public network without encryption. Then the service level agreement, it is very important. You have to define exactly what are the standards which you require. And this you have to spend a long time. Of course, you have to work very close with the application administrator, the service administrator, to define what are the service level agreements which you require for your services and for your application. The other thing which you have to think about the regulatory, yes, Prem.
Okay, you were talking about the service level agreements. So there is also two more terminologies which are used before we arrive into the service level agreement. One is the service level objective and another is service level requirements. So is the service...
No. I don't want you to continue. This is not covered in CCSP.
Okay.
This is not covered in CCSP. In CCSP, we are speaking about the service level agreements and contracts. And we will cover these contracts later in the module number 6.
Okay.
Then regulatory requirements, this is very, very critical and complicated issues, gentlemen. Frankly speaking, it's a nightmare for any cloud administrator. Why? If I'm living in Saudi Arabia and I know that my data center is in Saudi Arabia, then I know exactly what are the rules and compliance standards which I should follow. If I'm living in states where I know PII, SOX, HEBA, BCI, DSS, piece of cake. I know the standards, I can study it, I can know what are the requirements, I can fulfill that these are compatible with my infrastructure. But here, what you will do if you don't know where are your applications? In the cloud service provider, your application, it may run today in Europe and tomorrow it may be in USA and day after tomorrow it may be in MEA. Because with the enterprise cloud service providers, we have multiple locations. I know AWS, we have 54 data centers distributed all over the world. And we are using this for redundancy and all this stuff. Then if you did not define to them from scratch that I want this data to be hosted in Europe only, then they will consider it as a public and it can be hosted in Europe, in America, even in hell. Then what will be the regulatory which I have to follow? I don't know. Where is my location? Is it USA? Is it GDPR? Is it HIBAA? Is it BCI DSS? I don't know. It depends here. Where is your location? And it's very important to discuss this point with your cloud service provider. I want this data to be inside Saudi Arabia. For example, as I told you that if it's critical information, we are not allowed to host this data outside the border of Saudi Arabia. Then I have to mention this very clear to cloud service provider. I don't want my data to be migrated outside Saudi Arabia, period. Then you have to work very closely with your cloud service provider to understand what are the regulatory or regulations which you require. I remember, gentlemen, one case, it was very strange. It happened with one of our customers in Saudi Arabia. One of our customers, he has a patent for manufacturing product. And they discovered that this patent, it was stored on a storage in America, in a cloud service. This patent was stored on a cloud storage in America. By some way, they discovered that this patent, it was leaked and it captured by some other companies. And when they raised a case against these companies, they said, no, it is not, it's not right, because it is hosted in America on our storage, and the protection mentioned in this patent, it is not covered in USA. This can be covered in your country or whatever, but it's not in USA. And they lost the case. Then this is very critical. You have to make sure and understand very well the compliance and regulations. What are the compliance? Are you dealing with information for European citizens? Then you have to think about GDPR, even if the data is hosted in any location. I don't care. But if you are dealing with personal information or private information, privacy information for cloud service provider, then you have to take GDPR in your compliance. If you are working with credit cards, then BCI DSS, wherever your data is stored. In some situation, you will say, if I am storing my data in America, then I have some health information, then I have to follow HIBAA, HEBA standard. This data is stored in Europe, I don't care about HEBA standard because my data is stored in somewhere else. But of course, I have to protect the privacy data of the users and so on. Then you will find that it's very complicated and it's integrated with each other. You have to work very close with the cloud service provider to understand or to define a specific location to host your data and not be outside this area and so on. By the way, this is a real challenge if you have multiple locations, if you have multiple areas. And as in my situation, in my organization, we have 5 regions: MEA, Europe, America, Asia, and China. We are facing a lot of nightmares to make sure that, and in some situation, you will find contradiction. In some countries, we are saying that the data should be raised after 5 years. In other locations, we are saying no, it should be 3 years only. Then which one I have to follow, 5 or 3? This will, you have to work in some situation with lawyers to understand what will be the right action. The second issue, it will be security. I will not speak too much about this because all the next modules, it will speak about security. Security for data, security for applications, security for infrastructures, security operations, and so on. We will speak in more details about this. Also the privacy. There is one question here, it is a matter of concept. I want to make sure that you understand the difference between both of them. What is the difference between security and privacy?
Security is for the organization. Privacy is more, I think, with respect to individual.
Okay, any other answer? Security, it is for, okay, go ahead.
I'm saying security is about like how can you secure your data? What layer of security can you put? Privacy is about, is your data already in their place? Is sharing with everyone when you comply or you use this application or not?
Okay. No, it is not. First part, yes. Security, the right answer, it is not 100% again for Prem, and it's not 100% for Muhammad. The security, as Muhammad and Prem, they mentioned how to protect your data. What are the security controls to protect your data? Yes, these are the security control which you have to protect your data. I want to have a firewall, I want to have encryption, I want to have SSL, I want to have IPS, I want to have anti-malware, I want to have a whitelist, and so on. Privacy, it is related not to persons, it is related to personal information. Personal information, which you call it in America BII. You call it in America BII. What is BII? This personal identifiable information. This means that the information which it will identify a specific person. For example, when I say usosama@gmail.com, this is Osama. I know that it's Osama. Or his mobile number 009665901165503. This is Osama. And of course, you know, when we are speaking about privacy, we are speaking here two different types of privacy, direct and indirect. When even privacy, it will cover direct and indirect. Direct, which it will define the person by a single piece of information. Indirect, group of indirect information, it will define a person. For example, I know an Egyptian person who is working in Saudi Arabia. When this means that we are speaking about 7 million persons. He is working in Eastern Province. Okay, now we are 4,000. He is working in El Jubail. We are 1 million. He is working in Sabiq. We are 500,000. He is working in the head office when it's 100,000. He is working in second floor when it's, let's say, 100. He is working in eastern wing when now we are 10. His desk office, it's 265. When this is Osama. When this group of indirect information, it will lead to a specific person. And this is the difference between the security and privacy. Other thing which you have to think about it when you are moving your data or application from on-prem to cloud, the auditability. Audit. You have to make an audit. I will not speak too much here. I will cover audit in details in chapter module 6. In some situation, you will not be able to audit the cloud service provider. Do you think that you can go to Google and tell them, I want to come and audit your network? You will go to hell to audit my network. Do you think that I will give you an access for my network, which it hosts all my customers? Of course not. Then what we can do, if I am not able to audit your network to make sure that you are following best practices in security and all this stuff, how can I trust that you will be able to protect my data? Okay, we have solutions which we will cover later in module number 6. Governance. What is governance? Can you tell me what is governance, gentlemen?
Ensuring that the policies, process, internal controls are all maintained.
Yes, you are right, Prem. You are right. You have some standards, you have some processes, policies in your organization, and your management want to make sure that all the daily activities are compliant with these standards and policies. It does not mean that if you are moving your application from one location to, the organization into a cloud service provider, you will not have a governance over it. Of course, you will not have a full governance as on-prem, but still, I want to have some sort of governance. Then, tell me, this is a question for you. How you can manage the governance between yourself as a cloud service customer and the cloud service provider? I am afraid that now, if I go to a cloud service provider, he want to gain a business with you, and he will tell you, I will give you everything, we can do this, we can do that. But when you make the migration, you will discover that he is cheating you and he will not provide you all the information which you require. Then, how you can manage this?
I think by getting assurance reports, we will first go as a customer, we will ask him SOC 2 type 2 report, but usually they may not give. But at least we need assurances that basically, I think they are maintaining all the security standards and governance standards.
But this, it will not give you governance. This SOC reports, it will show you that we have proper infrastructure. But this, it will not provide you governance. SOC, it is not the right solution here. SOC, it can be replacement for audit. Okay, I agree. What will be the alternative to make sure that you will be able to governance the network based on your standard, or
Okay.
at least with a minimum acceptable level for your standard?
Is it a star rating with which I think
No,
if
it is a service levels agreement.
Okay.
Service level agreement. And this is the reason why when I start with the service level agreement, I said it is very important. Very important. You have to work very close and understand what you are doing. Because here, if you mention in the service level agreement that you have to provide me governance in form of reports, in data, in logs, and you have to send it to me, and he has not fulfilled this means that you have to refer to the contract and you can put some penalties and you can let him to pay money or whatever. And this means that he will try to avoid this. And if he refuses to add this into the services agreement or the contracts, then this means that he will not be able to fulfill. Okay? Maintenance and versioning. Again, this is although it is very simple, but I found that it's very important. What do you mean by maintenance and versioning? By the end of the day, cloud service provider, it is a data center. We want to top some devices to make maintenance for it, to upgrade versions, to upgrade the operating systems, upgrade the applications. and all this stuff. But in some situations, there may be a disaster. Your data, it is running on Oracle 9, for example. Everything is great. They upgrade into Oracle 10. You discovered that your data, it's not workable with the new version. Then this means that you have to keep a record. It's a service level agreement that you must, if you want to upgrade the applications or the operating systems or whatever, you have to keep room for the old infrastructure. When if we require it, I will not be affected. Or if I want to roll back to the old one, I will be able to roll back. And also the maintenance, of course, in cloud service provider, it's not an issue at all. Because if they want to make a maintenance, we have redundancy. Then if they want to stop a specific device, we will stop it and we will utilize the other one. But the main issue which I found is the versioning. You have a specific version, everything is running fine, you are satisfied, your data is up and running. And when we make the migration into a new version, you discover that the application is not working and it's not able to read the data. If he said, I am really sorry, I will not be able to roll back into the previous version, this means that you are lost. You are lost. Even if you have a backup and you are able to retrieve it back, again, the application, it's not support the data. And this means that the cloud service provider, he have to keep versioning, version 2, version 3, version 4. Then if your application or your data structure, it will not be able to run on this version, it can be run on another version or the old version. It will not be affected. Reversibility. What is reversibility? Reversibility is very easy. Now I have a service published over the cloud service provider. I want to pull or delete this service to migrate it into other cloud service provider or on-prem and make sure that all my data is deleted from the cloud service provider infrastructure. This is what we call it reversibility. And reversibility, this means that you have an application hosted the cloud service provider. You want to migrate this application into another cloud service provider, or you want to remove it from this cloud service provider and put it on-prem. And you want to make sure that all the data are deleted from the cloud service provider. Of course, deleting data, it's not easy. And as you will see tomorrow or next week, we have alternatives, you have solutions, and this it should be very clear in the service level agreement. You have to work very closely with your cloud service provider, understand how this data it will be deleted, and this which we call it the exit plan. Exit plan. I don't think that exit plan it will be mentioned in the CCSP, but this is very important. You must have an exit plan for your service, because if you want to exit the cloud service provider, you must have a plan how the data it will be migrated, how the data it will be deleted, how the data it will be backed up, and so on. Okay? Any questions? Any questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, excellent.
So one question on the reversibility. So will that clause will be also be mentioned in the contract on the reversibility?
No, not in the contract, in the exit plan.
Okay.
In exit plan. It should appear in the exit plan.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.